Hurricane Melissa continues to intensify tonight, and we're expecting catastrophic impacts across areas of the Caribbean over the next couple of days. Jamaica is first. We'll spend a lot of time there. Eastern Cuba is next, and then we need to watch the Bahamas, and then we need to watch Bermuda, and even need to watch Atlantic Canada as we get towards the end of the week. But almost all of our attention in this video is going to go towards our family here in the Caribbean. And I continue to be extremely concerned about what could unfold over the next few days. I was reading through the comments, just seeing everybody that's tuning in from Jamaica. And first off, thank you for choosing my channel to get information from. I mean, 99% of all the comments are nothing but love. And I appreciate y'all so much. Jamaica and Atlantic Canada, two areas outside the U.S. that I just get an incredible amount of support and love from. And I just appreciate y'all. And in a way, it hits home even more breaking this down for you guys and what we think could happen with this storm system. And it just breaks my heart even more because you guys are just so filled with so much love, and we are praying for you so hard for the best case scenario. Whatever that may be, we're praying like crazy for it. And we're going to get through this. And I know that's easy for some random dude in South Carolina in the U.S. to say, but prayer is powerful, and I believe 100% in it, and we are praying like crazy for you folks. So timestamps are up throughout the entire video. Utilize them, get the information you're looking for. You will find it. You just, if you don't want to watch a video 30 minutes long, just find the timestamp of whatever information you're looking for. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And if anybody has anything I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below. And like I mentioned, we are praying for you folks down here in the Caribbean. Let's get going tonight. So this is an intensifying storm system. It's an evolving storm system. So some of this information that you're going to get in this video might be a little old. It doesn't really change a whole lot of what I'm saying. But just note if you're tuning in, this is a Category 5 storm. I'm seeing it just like you are. But as of around 5:30 Eastern Time, this is a 145 mile per hour Category 4 hurricane that is in the process of strengthening after just kind of maintaining itself most of the day today. But hurricane hunters have just left Florida and are heading back into the storm system. So we're going to get new information over the next couple hours or so. But it looks like it's strengthening. You can see that by looking at the whites and areas of pink going around the actual cleared out eye that you could probably obviously see on your screen, which is right here. You see how some of that black kind of goes to more white and even areas of pink? This tells us that the cloud tops around the eye of the hurricane are getting colder, which means we have taller storms, which means we have stronger storms, stronger convection. The stronger these storms are, the higher their cloud tops are, and the higher it gets, the colder it gets, and that is reflected by the colors you see on your screen with these colder cloud tops. So I really think this is it's in the process of intensifying even more. And by the time some of you folks watch this later tonight, this could very well be a Category 5 storm. There is a chance it's a Category 5 storm right now and still forecast to become one. So Jamaica right here, it's well put together. The western side continues to get hit by some shear. You can tell how the convection right in here is getting eat up a little bit, but this thing has a tight inner core now, and it's not being bothered much by it at all. But you can obviously see the eastern side of the storm has a lot more convection on it for just obvious reasons, because we have more divergence aloft and just not any shear on that eastern side of the hurricane. So let's continue to move forward. I do want to show you the radar out of Jamaica, and this is going to have to run through a little bit. Hopefully it'll come through. Here it is. And I'm actually just going to pause this right here. Okay, so it doesn't go in and out. Jamaica's right here. Eastern Cuba's here. This is Haiti. You can see the eye of the hurricane off radar well south of Jamaica. So it's so close now that it's showing up on radar, and it's so well structured now that you can see a cleared out eye on radar. So it's right there, and it's going to be meandering well off the southern shoreline for the next day or so before hooking north and making that landfall more than likely. Latest information, let's update this, make sure nothing else has changed. It's a 145 mile per hour hurricane. Its central pressure is at 941 millibars. It's moving west still at just a whopping 5 miles per hour. So moving very, very slow. Not quite as slow as say 24 hours ago, but it's still moving very slow, 941 millibars. Okay. This is the latest cone, 145 mile per hour storm. By the time we get into tonight, Jamaica here, hurricane warnings. Eastern Cuba now has hurricane warnings with areas a little bit to the west with tropical storm warnings. And we have pretty much had tropical storm warnings up and hurricane watches up for areas of southwest Haiti for the last several days now. But by the time we get into 2 a.m. tonight, it says it's going to be a 155 mile per hour category 4 hurricane. Could happen before that. The forecast is still there for this to become a category 5 hurricane. That'll probably happen sometime over the next 12 hours, if not sooner. But it says by 2 p.m. tomorrow, category 5 hurricane, 160 miles per hour. And then by 2 a.m. Tuesday, still a category 5 hurricane. Then from 2 a.m. Tuesday to 2 p.m. Tuesday, that's a 12-hour period, it's going to make landfall. So I would say sometime Tuesday morning is when it can make landfall. Now, remember, this cone is not the impact cone, so don't think if you live in the far areas of Jamaica right here, in the eastern sections, you're not going to get any impacts. If you live on this little area of Jamaica, that's not what this means. This is what the center of the storm, the eye, which you can clearly see now, could potentially make landfall. So it could still happen near Morant Bay, and it could still miss a landfall off the western end of Jamaica, which there's a couple model runs teasing at that. And that would be great. And remember I just said in the beginning of the video, we pray for the best case scenario. And I honestly think that could be one of our best case scenarios, is if this whiffs a good whiff to the east. To the west. But has the center of this cone just west of Alligator Pond? Right here. Okay, I'm not going to pretend like I know Kingston. Most people know that right here. I'm not going to pretend like I know every single area in Jamaica. But by 2 p.m. Tuesday afternoon, category 4, 130 mile per hour hurricane. Let's make this a little bit wider. Then from 2 p.m. Tuesday to 2 a.m. Wednesday, that's 12 hours. It's going to go from Jamaica to eastern Cuba, make a landfall into eastern Cuba somewhere, bring significant impacts, a lot of higher terrain in this area. And then from 2 a.m. Wednesday to 2 p.m. Wednesday, 12-hour period, it's going to leave Cuba and then significantly affect the Bahama Islands here. Turks, Caicos Islands, you guys will get impacts too. But I'm not seeing a lot of people talking about really eastern Cuba and the Bahamas. But this is going to be the forward speed to the Bahamas is going to be much faster. That's the good news. But this could make a third landfall somewhere into here as a category 2, 105 mile per hour hurricane. And by the way, if I didn't mention it, forecast to still be a major hurricane at landfall sometime late Tuesday night into Wednesday morning into eastern Cuba. And then still be a category 2, probably over a 100 mile per hour hurricane through the areas of the southern and central Bahamas as we're getting into Wednesday evening. And then we make this a little bit larger. It's going to weaken to a category 1, 90 mile per hour hurricane by Tuesday afternoon. And look how it goes from here Tuesday afternoon to here Friday afternoon. That's 24 hours. So it's going to blast through Bermuda. Bermuda's right smack in the middle of this cone. Okay, so we'll get more detailed on Bermuda when we need to. Is Atlantic Canada in the cone? Not yet, but you're a little bit out of range. Okay, now hurricane hunters are flying into this right now, but they're not even close to the storm. They're just getting south of the Florida Keys. So this is a highly anticipated run by the hurricane hunters. Everybody's kind of watching this one to see if this is even stronger of a hurricane than 145 miles per hour. What about the hurricane models? Let's start to go over them. And we're going to start off with right now. So we know that's a 941 millibar low. So the HFA model starting this off a little bit too weak millibar wise. 947, this is 5 p.m. The actual time right now, the time I'm doing this video, is exactly 5:39. So it's a little too weak with this system. But let's continue to watch it. We get into Monday morning, it says it's a 931 millibar low. If a 941 correlates to a 145 mile per hour hurricane, because millibar is different with every hurricane, then I would say a 931 probably is going to correlate to a low-end category 5 hurricane. So this tells me that the HFA model thinks we're waking up to a category 5 hurricane at least by tomorrow morning. Jamaica's here. Is this system going to continue to head west? It begins to make that turn. It's abrupt too. And by Tuesday morning, The HFA model has us at a 910 millibar low. That is definitely a Category 5 hurricane. And it makes landfall as that right into the southern coastline of Jamaica. Now, I'm going to slow this video down here a little bit. And some people might like it. Some people might like that. And some people might not. But if something like the HFA model is correct, then the landfall would certainly be well west of Kingston, right? But would probably come up and hit, what is that? Great Pedro Bluff. So, you know, I'm not, hopefully I said that right. I hope I did. But obviously that would come up and kind of significantly affect St. Elizabeth, Mandeville, or either Manville. Not sure how y'all pronounce that. I'm probably going to butcher some things. And, you know, that would bring significant impacts to Black River. But it looks like the landfall would certainly be right around Great Pedro Bluff if this model run is correct. Maybe a tick east of it. And then it runs right through the middle of the island, gets north. And, you know, this is Tuesday evening. Still a major hurricane, comes up and slams, makes some sort of landfall early Wednesday morning into eastern Cuba. And then it comes up and significantly impacts the Bahamas sometime Wednesday afternoon. The southern Bahamas. Not really the northern Bahamas, the southern Bahamas, more so. And then we'll continue to keep this going. You're probably going to see Bermuda pop up on your screen. Actually, I do not see it. It's hard because it's a very small island, but it doesn't. Yeah, there it is, right there. It moves actually west of Bermuda. Okay, but does bring some impacts and races past it very fast. But close enough to bring some impacts. Kind of late Thursday into Friday morning. HFB model, what does it do? Here it comes as we're getting into it's initializing as a 940. That's closer, right? With the HFB model, it's almost dead on. And then we start to get into tomorrow morning, 931, probably a Category 5 storm if this is correct. And then it makes that abrupt turn and begins to bottom out at a 910, just like the HFA model. I mean, it's almost copy and paste. And then comes up and makes a landfall sometime Tuesday morning. It looks like right into that area I just mentioned, which is, it's a little bit closer to, say, Black River, but right in that Great Pedro Bluff area. Okay? St. Elizabeth would get a lot of impacts from this. Kingston is right into here. Okay? You guys would get significant impacts, but the brunt of the strongest winds from this would certainly be well west. We've had a little bit of that west tick over the last day. And this will go right over Jamaica, still be a powerful hurricane north of Jamaica. And we get into Tuesday afternoon, then this comes up and makes a landfall sometime Tuesday night and Wednesday morning into eastern Cuba. And speaking of eastern Cuba, that's the crazy thing about Cuba. And I've had some people voice their opinions on this. I can't even count on one hand how many people I've heard from Cuba. Cuba's just, you just don't hear much from Cuba at all. But anyways, you continue to move forward. This goes over eastern Cuba sometime overnight Tuesday into Wednesday morning. By Wednesday morning, this is off the coastline going right through the Bahamas and whatever main island it's going to hit. I can tell you one island it continues to really zoom into or is the Acklands, Crooked Island. These areas right into here. It says it's called the Acklands. This is the area that it really likes as far as a landfall. And then it gets past this area, and then where's Bermuda? Don't let it sneak up on our screen here. And Bermuda, same thing with the HFA, with the HFB. It gets actually west of Bermuda, brings some impact sometime Thursday night into Friday morning. What about the H-Wharf model? It's initializing pretty well, 939, just a little bit off. But, I mean, you don't expect this to be perfect. And as we're getting into Monday morning, about the same in strength. Look how west this is. I mean, it almost looks like it's just going to continue west. And then it makes that turn, and it actually misses a landfall. Its closest approach is sometime Tuesday morning, and it almost looks to me like it would bring significant impacts to just pretty much the western side of the island. But as far as making an actual landfall, I mean, it would still hit you guys with that eastern eye wall. But in making a landfall, this would technically miss and then would come up and obviously make a landfall a little bit further west in Cuba and then come up through Cuba and significantly impact the Bahamas sometime Wednesday. And I can tell you the Bahamas is a tricky area. This is an area where the wind field is going to begin to broaden, and we need to watch. And then where is Bermuda? This gets east of Bermuda. It's wild because on the H-Wharf model, it's further west in the short term, but in the longer term ends up being more east. So HMON model, what does it show? We'll show this also, and we wake up to it's initializing as around a 934, so a little bit too strong. Doesn't have it intensifying much overnight. And then we get into tomorrow afternoon, and it quickly comes up and hits Jamaica. It's definitely a weaker scenario, but it makes pretty much the same landfall right where the HFA, HFB is. So the H-Wharf model is a bit of an outlier, comes up, is a much weaker system, I want to add, makes a landfall. It's just a faster altogether progression too with the HMON model. Makes a landfall as early as Tuesday evening into eastern Cuba, comes up, goes through the Bahamas, a little bit further south on this run, and then we continue to look, and it gets east of Bermuda as we are getting into Thursday evening. So if we look at the Google DeepMind models here, you can see almost every member makes landfall into the western half of Jamaica, but we now have a few members that miss, kind of like the H-Wharf model. All of them are obviously locked into somewhere in eastern Cuba, and then they come up and they like this area of the Bahamas right here. Okay. So there is a chance this misses a landfall in Jamaica. And that would take away, that might take away one of your worst case scenarios. But I think regardless, this is going to bring really bad impacts to Jamaica. So this is as far as impact. Let me put my phone up so it'll stop vibrating on me here. As far as impacts, this is rainfall forecast, and we do have a new graphic since this morning, so that's good. There's still a little pocket here in eastern Jamaica that could get up to 40 inches of rain. And remember, I don't want you guys to think that the place that gets the eye of the hurricane is going to get the most rainfall. That's not the truth. That's where you'll get the strongest winds. Rainfall will happen actually east of the center of the storm. But the pink area, that's 20 to 30 plus inches of rain, feet of rain, 500 to 750 millimeters of rain. Then there's a hot spot right here for eastern Cuba due to the higher terrain. And that's 16 to 20 inches of rain. And then this kind of more solid red color, if you live in that region, like for example, in western Haiti, that's 12 to 16 inches of additional rainfall. Going to get a lot of rain into the Bahamas too. Now, as far as wind speeds, let's look at the HFA model. Okay, we're going to start off tomorrow evening. Let's continue to move this. We do not want this to be the way it happens. Now, one thing I will say is right now model guidance is really more so west of Kingston. And I'm not going to pretend like I know where the highest populated area is in Jamaica. Put it in the comments, and I can probably easily Google search it and probably would avoid asking that question. But I'm going to assume Kingston has a lot of people that live there. So that's right in here where the 67 is showing up. But this makes that landfall right where I was talking about, where the HFA and B make landfall, this is the HFA model. So you see, let's just move it back a little bit. This is like mid-morning, Tuesday morning. You see these areas in like grayish silver right here. These are winds at 130 to 145 miles per hour as far as wind gusts. These are wind gusts. And this is going to push whoever gets the inner eye wall of this hurricane is going to get devastated. I mean, I don't even think it'll be livable anymore. I hope that's not the case, though. I know you guys will find a way to get past this. But whoever gets hit by the eye wall, Melissa, that's where you're going to find the worst devastation. So this is the HFA model likes right into here. Okay. Not sure if that's exactly where it's going to happen, but that would bring 130, 140, 150 mile per hour plus wind gust into this area of Jamaica. Now, don't get me wrong. The entire island of Jamaica is going to get hurricane force winds. Obviously, if if the center of the storm tucks more into the western side, then the winds won't be quite as bad for the eastern side. Vice versa, works the same way. But for example, this is Tuesday afternoon. You still have a raging major hurricane going over the right smack down the middle of Jamaica, bringing over 100-mile-per-hour plus wind gusts through the entire island. And then this comes up, the wind field probably is going to broaden here as the structure of this storm is disrupted. And then this comes up and slams eastern Cuba sometime Wednesday morning, sometime late Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, and brings 100 to as much as 125-mile-per-hour wind gusts through eastern Cuba. It's just trying to figure out who exactly is going to see it. And then we have to deal with the Bahamas next, Wednesday afternoon. This starts to pick up a lot of forward speed. And there's that island, the Acklins, right in here. I think that's how you say it. The system goes right through these islands here. And whoever gets whatever's left over of this eye wall is going to have an opportunity to get 90, 100, 110 mile per hour plus wind gusts in this area. Look how much larger the wind field is through the Bahamas than it is, say, down here near Bermuda. I'm sorry, not Bermuda. Sorry, Jamaica. Okay, wind field gets much larger, which means we're going to get a lot of significant impact from the Turks, Caicos Islands all the way up to the central Bahamas. But the southern Bahamas kind of the highlight zone for this. And then, remember with Bermuda, there's a difference. Some hurricane models have this west of Bermuda. Some have it east of Bermuda. If something like the HFA model happens, then Bermuda would get the east side of the storm system, which is the dirty side. And you guys could get a several-hour period of 80 to 100 mile per hour wind gust. But that's, I would say, one of the worst case scenarios. Now, I do want to show you, I guess you would call the best case scenario, and that is maybe the H-Wharf model. But as far as rainfall, I don't think this is any better. In fact, one would argue that this is worse for Jamaica as a whole as far as flooding rains. It's just as far as the actual core of the storm system, it would be better. And what I'm saying is as far as the winds. So this is only wind speeds, but as you can tell, it does thrash the far western tip of Jamaica with the eye wall. But it doesn't actually have that landfall scenario. And then it comes up, slams Cuba, then it gets through the Bahamas. Look how much larger that wind field is. And then it comes up and we have to watch a scenario where this gets actually east of Bermuda as we are getting later into this week. So let's go back and look at this. We got any new data? Nah, they're about to get south of Cuba though. So, I mean, we're about to get new information here shortly, but moving past impacts, why is this thing moving so slow? I've explained this multiple times, but I'll continue to explain it for any new people tuning in. There's a weak high right here, and there is sort of a high pressure right into here over Mexico, Central America, and then there is a trough digging down right here across the southern tier of the country. So I want you to look really closely at this wind barb right here. Okay, you see how this portion of the wind barb is pointing this way? Okay, that means your flow is coming west to east. So you see the flag portion of the wind barb pointing to the west. That means the flow is coming out the west. So we got high pressure here. We got some sort of high pressure here. We got a lot of flow up here with a trough digging down. And that trough that's going to move over here is actually going to scoop up Melissa. But flow is moving around this like that. And then flow is moving around this kind of elongated high pressure, sort of like this. Okay? And this high pressure right here is actually what's kind of helping to steer. And I would say that this high pressure really is going all the way over here. And that is what's actually helping to steer, kind of just a stretched out high, steer the system a little bit to the west. But to sum all this up, for the most part, Melissa is hanging out between three major steering currents, being steered a little bit more by this high pressure, but it's right smack in the middle of pushes in the upper levels of the atmosphere. So that's causing this thing to kind of just be sandwiched in between lack of pull. That'll change over the next couple days as you'll see this area up here kind of dig down. You see how it's coming down right there? That actually helps to kind of dig down this westerly flow just enough for this system to work, for it to work in tandem with a strengthening hurricane, which is always going to want to try to gain some latitude, and then it kind of gets yanked out by this trough digging down and kind of scoops it up and out of the Caribbean. As far as why this system is thriving so well, which by the way, we all knew this was going to happen. We've been talking about it for quite some time. This is the water vapor loop. First off, just look how impressive, I mean, you got to admit, this cleared out eye is. The black, that's dry air. This white mixed with kind of a blue shade, that is moist air. We'll keep it as simple as that. So look at this cleared out eye right here. It's dried out. I mean, you probably got the full-fledged stadium effect here in the Caribbean. And we're probably going to get that for somewhere in Jamaica here in the next couple days also. But listen, this entire area, this entire side of the storm has been healthy since it began. And it continues to be. So you're going to see an incredible fanning out of moisture. We call this divergence aloft. And it's going just like this. And it's even coming down like this now in the upper levels. So this system has still got a lot of dry air pretty close to it. But it's not, and this is due to that stout, continuous kind of westerly shear that's more so going like this, okay? But it's not able to get into the storm. One, because it's weak shear. Two, because this system has now developed an incredibly impressive and tight core around the eye. So I don't know if you can remember when we went back, we were talking about how this was going to develop kind of an inner core that was going to protect the low-level circulation. Here's about as good of an example of that as you can get. It is completely protected by a shroud of white, which is deep tropical moisture. So all this dry air ain't bothering it at all. So to wrap all this up, the system is now hanging out. Light wind shear, nothing pulling it, and there's a lot of divergence aloft, meaning there's a lot of spacing out of air from the upper portions of this storm. This allows for more air to rise. That gets pushed away. That leaves room for more air to rise. Rising air leads to convection. Convection is shower and thunderstorm activity. Shower and thunderstorm activity leads to a moist environment. A moist environment, well, tropical systems love that, and that's exactly what Melissa has. Yeah, combine that with the fact that this thing is spinning away in some of the warmest waters on planet Earth here in the Caribbean. 30, 31 degrees Celsius. That you convert that to Fahrenheit, that's in the mid to upper 80s. Okay, very warm waters of the Caribbean, which are typically warm this time of the year. And this environment will continue. We fast forward to tomorrow afternoon off the HFA model run here, and the environment continues. This is the upper levels. This is like 35, 40,000 feet up in the air. This is our tropical system where the L930 is showing. And if you look really closely, these lines with these arrows embedded into them, they're going just like this, which is exactly what the storm system is doing pretty much right now. Flow is even going just like this, and this thing is just pretty much creating its own environment, living and thriving its best life here in the Caribbean. And you match this with this, and well, you would have to reposition it, but you look at this, and then you look at that, it matches up pretty much perfectly. So it helps me as the explainer here to explain things well. Now, not to leave my friends up here in Atlantic Canada hanging, this thing has, on the Euro at least, ticked a little bit too close for comfort for you guys. On the latest Euros, we're getting into Friday afternoon, last day of October, Halloween. Things could get really weird, spooky for Newfoundland. And as the latest Euro shows, it wants to actually bring this into the Avalon Peninsula sometime late Friday night into Saturday morning. And there's just a lot going on with this system. This is tied to another low pressure, cold air's around, enough for some snow up here. And listen, I mean, if you look at the actual Google Ensemble guidance, I mean, it does take a lot of members right over Bermuda, which is this little speck here. And there continues to be many members that like the idea, even a few for like Prince Edward Island and Nova Scotia, but there's a few to go into Newfoundland still. So we will continue to watch it for you folks up in Atlanta, Canada, but there ain't a whole lot of details to really speak on because this is going to be moving so fast, but I do think we'll lock in something here in the next day or so for you guys, something or nothing. So just to kind of go back to this, see if you got any new information. If you don't, and just taking one last look at this system, guys. Yeah, I mean, it is just symmetrical, spinning away, moving west very slowly. And yeah, so I'm praying for you guys and thinking of you folks in Jamaica and everywhere that's going to see impacts from this system. Dating back a couple weeks ago, I really thought we were going to get out of this hurricane season clear of any stupid hurricanes here in the Caribbean and the Gulf. And it does look like we're going to avoid it in the Gulf, but we're obviously not avoiding it here in the Caribbean. And it's unfortunate. But we're going to get through this, and I'm going to continue to provide updated information. And I do want to say I appreciate all the support. I've had a lot of growth on the channel, and I don't want to speak too much on this. This ain't about me. But I do want to say thank y'all for all the growth over the last few days. And thank you for trusting my channel. And I appreciate y'all so much. So that's all I got. Thank y'all for tuning in. God bless all y'all. And we'll do it again tomorrow morning.